The New Jersey Pinelands Commission is celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Pinelands Comprehensive Management Plan. And I'm here today with Dr. Robert Zampella, who joined the Commission staff on May 25th, 1979. At that time, interim staff members were borrowed from other offices before the Pinelands Commission's Executive Director, Terrence Moore, hired a permanent staff, including Dr. Zampella, who was borrowed from the Educational Improvement Center Northwest, where he was a science curriculum consultant. Dr. Zampella was one of several co-authors of the Pinelands Comprehensive Management Plan, and he became the Commission's first chief scientist, serving in that role until his retirement at the end of 2009. Thank you for joining us.
Morning. Good morning.
So what was it like? Take me back. What was the office environment like when you and others were drafting this comprehensive management plan?
Well, the physical environment was one thing. I mean, when we started out in Trenton, Michael Bolin, Tony Esser, and I, the three of us were stuck in a small cubicle. And I forget who it was, but one of us, we would pull out the shelves on the office desks, and that was somebody's desk. So we only had two desks in there. When we moved to the commission, it was beautiful. Fenwick Manor is beautiful, but it wasn't ready for an office staff. We didn't have lights. We had to go out and buy lamps to sit on the desk. We didn't have air conditioning. We had to open the windows, but we didn't have screens. So we tended to have quite a few flies in the office. But everybody got along beautifully. It was just part of the mission we were on. Professionally, it was outstanding. I was lucky to work with a bunch of great people. Everyone worked hard, long hours, 7 days a week. We had good management, Terry Moore and John Stokes. I think that was one of the strengths of the commission, is that we had good people working their behinds off.
Yeah, well, I imagine it had to be a close-knit group, given you were working in these close quarters and you had this deadline coming up to get this plan done, and you had to get it right. So what other regional planning models existed at that time, and how did any of those models help you in creating the CMP? In other words, how much new ground was being broken with the CMP?
Well, you're talking to an ecologist. I wasn't heavily involved in the planning background. Mm-hmm. That's probably better left to Alice DRC or Michael Bolin. Mm-hmm. I mean, what people spoke about was the California Coastal Plan and the Adirondacks Plan, but I'm not familiar with them.
So ecologically, though, what were there other things, other documents out there that would help you in creating the plan?
Actually, I mean, when you come down to some of the parts that I was involved in, wetlands, we pretty much started from scratch with the wetlands program. And then the state, a few years after, followed up with a statewide wetlands program. Mm-hmm. Rare species, we were able to adopt a rare plant species list, as well as adopt what the Fish and Game use for their animals. So we put that in place. Mm-hmm. Forestry, there was not a region-wide forestry plan in the state, and we put one together, mainly dealing with standards. Try to incorporate wildfire into the planning. We did. Matter of fact, you can still see those maps. Mm-hmm. Those maps in the back of the original plan. Mm-hmm. So we did quite a bit that was not happening in New Jersey, at least, and put it in place at the commission. Mm-hmm. I think acquisition was a big part, and money was provided by the federal government and the state government. So we were able to really expand the acquisition program. What the plan did was it put in place a target of 100,000 acres and about 70,000 in the preservation area, and that was accomplished pretty quickly in the preservation area. So mm-hmm. it was. I think Ralph Good and Norman Good did a good job of presenting it in a scientific view in a publication. Looking at the Pinelands National Reserve as an ecological reserve and how unique it was. Mm-hmm.
I imagine it was a pretty exciting time as you were working on that. And how much brainstorming occurred among staff at that time?
Oh golly, we always lived together. Mm-hmm. For all that time. the permanent staff came on towards the end of the summer of '79, and we didn't stop until the plan was done.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, it was a small staff, so it wasn't too difficult to communicate. There was Michael as a planner, Alice Diarcy as a planner,
Mm-hmm.
Tony Esser was our soil scientist and hydrologist. Me, I dealt with most of the ecological items, and Bob Kerwin. We had an excellent cartographer.
Mm-hmm.
We were pretty primitive. When you look at planning today, we didn't have GIS, we didn't have computers.
Mm-hmm.
So we wrote everything. We had to assemble a resource assessment, which didn't exist. Try and collect data from wherever we could. We updated existing vegetation maps as our land use maps, and we used again. If you're a young planner, you've never used a Mylar overlay.
Mm-hmm.
Our GIS were all overlaying Mylar separations.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we got all our information, whether it be hard copies of a data on rare species or map data, we had to write it up, and we used yellow pads.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have our own PC, so everybody wrote on yellow pads, gave them to someone to type up. We had a contract with the contractor to get the word processing done. So I'm amazed that we were able to get it done as quickly as we did. We had great people doing the vegetation maps. Leslie Jones out of Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
and when she worked with Jack McCormick in producing the original Pinelands vegetation maps. We would run to Trenton, grab the aerial photography, drive to Philadelphia, give them to Leslie. She would use them for mapping. We'd go pick them up, and we kept doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a long trip in getting everything done, but we got it done. I'm
Mm-hmm.
surprised when I look at the dates on the preservation area plan. It was June of 1980. It was less than a year. We really didn't start producing information until we got our contracts done, and we had to get all these contracts done in the fall of '79, and then assess the information given to us by the contracts.
Mm-hmm. How well do you think that mapping holds up from the original mapping?
You mean the land capability?
Yes.
Oh well, there's a report that we did just before I retired. It's called Ecological Integrity Assessment, and we had the advantage now of having GIS and computers and being able to run pretty sophisticated programs. And what's amazing is that the development went where it was indicated it should go 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty impressive. There were very few places where there were conflicts between what people would see as being good for the Pine Barrens and what we've actually done.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was pretty much proof of the pudding. The plan worked. The plans worked for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I could find areas where I say we should have done this, we should have done that, but overall, and the acquisition worked beautifully. The land capability worked beautifully. The preservation area, which is the gem, is still intact.
Mm-hmm. All right. So looking back now, what are you most proud of as far as your time working on the CMP and working at the commission?
Well, first being able to say that I was part of putting the CMP together.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my proudest accomplishments. In the CMP, the wetlands program, it's held up pretty well. The acquisition program was pretty successful, and being able to, Terry Moore and John Stokes gave me the opportunity to establish a research program, and we've done pretty well with that. We've got a fairly good body of research that we produced. And that's what I spent most of my I call them my later years.
Sure.
Was doing ecological research.
Yeah, I mean, no one else has as much research on the Pinelands, correct, than the commission.
Well, there's a lot of good people out there. Joan Ehrenfeld was great. Mark Morgan is great. We made our contribution, which I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, I appreciate your time here today. I hope you're doing well, and I appreciate all your work on the CMP and all your work at the commission over the many years. Thanks again.
All right, good seeing you, Paul. Take care now.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.